Well, Shirley MacLaine, how are you?
Very well, Alex. How are you?
I'm really good, thank you, and all the better for seeing and talking to you, because I tell you what's really marvellous about you, reading your biog, is seeing how multi-skilled you are. And there aren't many people around today who do different things. They really focus on one thing and they do it as long as they can, and then they seem to disappear. Was it your parents? Because seeing how diverse they were, that seems to be your major influence.
I think the fact that they were unfulfilled at their talents was an inspiration for me, because you like to fulfill your parents in any way you can, don't we? I mean, we all feel that the parents should be happy. That's our concern. But I honestly feel, getting to my metaphysical leanings, that I decided to come into a talented family. I decided to use and amplify my talents so that once I became successful, I could investigate the metaphysical, spiritual realm, and then people would listen to me. That is basically a nutshell of what I think happened to me.
It was very interesting visiting your website and seeing the things that you're interested in now, the spiritual life, and you talk about the people that are here with us. There could be aliens. There's all kinds of fascinating things on your website that I read, and certainly in this new book as well. Were you always interested in things beyond the obvious?
Yeah, my dad had a doctorate in psychology and philosophy from Johns Hopkins. So my dad always had these questions about realities that we don't see or are not aware of. My mother was Canadian and very involved with the, let's say, the reality that we don't see about nature. So I had a double whammy going there. And there was never a curtailment of my questions or my curiosity during my lifetime. I remember being a mystic. I didn't know what that meant, but being interested in these mystical things at a very early age, 9, 10, like that. I was asking for telescopes at the age of 9. And was never very attracted to organized religion, but very attracted to the spirituality of the soul. And then speaking and knowing Dr. Stephen Hawking. Hawking is a buddy of mine, and only because we had the same publisher at Bantam. Otherwise, what would he be doing with me or me with him? But I visited him at Cambridge, and we've had long conversations about things such as God and what is real. So that is a nutshell.
Okay, I'll tell you where I'm coming from. I'm not a believer and I'm not a disbeliever. I want to believe, but I've interviewed a million psychics and mystics over the years. I'm yet to find any evidence of truth. Do you worry about how people will perceive what you believe?
Well, obviously I don't worry, or I wouldn't keep doing it. But the fact that I keep questioning, and this has become my truth, the fact that I've stuck with it is one of the reasons why I am, basically mainstream now. But when you ask, is this real, what's the proof? I go to God. What's the proof of God? What's the proof of anything, really? But I go much deeper than that. I'm actually, I think, saying that we create everything. And that is hard for a lot of people to respond to, frankly. But that's what I've come to. I think one thing I'd like to introduce, and not a lot of people have gotten into this in specificity, is holistic dentistry.
And what is that?
Well, let's say this. To start with, it all begins in the mouth. If the mouth is a healthy place in terms of its inner terrain, its pH of acidic and alkalizing factors, then you are basically healthy. Each tooth in the mouth is tied into an acupuncture meridian point that goes to an internal organ. And I've had experience with that in having a tooth removed. What was bothering me with my digestive tract cleared up. But I have to tell you that in my studies of, let's just say, for example, acupuncture, the acupuncture meridian maps of who we are, we know that this works. There was an emperor in China, Wang Ti, thousands of years ago, welcomed the star visitors, as he called them, the watchers. They stayed around teaching him Wang Ti teaching them about human, in that case, Chinese consciousness. When they left him the acupuncture maps and as a gift. I think that's wonderful.
Do you ever worry that the things you talk about could influence whether you get work or how you're perceived?
Well, obviously not. It makes me cough even to think of that. That's probably one reason that I'm still around, to tell you the truth. People know that, frankly, I'm authentic. I really believe this stuff. I really, honestly find it real. And my sense of reality is what I then share with others. Frankly, I don't care if they believe it or not. I do it for myself. And in the end, I think we all do everything for ourselves. Hopefully we can be the best people we can be and the most compassionate and sensitive. But no, I don't even think about what it will do to my career, nor have I when I was out for a political candidate or anything. So my image is one of being authentic, whether you do agree or disagree. Yeah.
I've been looking at your career and your CV and seeing how your career has progressed. Is there luck involved, or is it down to perseverance and talent? Because you seem one of the most determined people I've ever read about. When I look at the things you've done and how you've done it, it's your sheer drive that seems to have got you there and makes you still sat here today.
You know, I'm looking at that, Alex, because I have been too much of an overachiever, I think. My drive and persistence, I think, have motivated me too much. And one of the reasons I've written this book is to explain how aging sort of demands that you sit back and look at things, really involve yourself, not with your determination to accomplish whatever it is, but to look at the trees, at the worms, at the insects, at the flowers, at the dogs. I have now 12 dogs at my ranch in Santa Fe, and I learn an awful lot from those animals and from the horses and from the different rhythms of nature, which I ignored when I was young and so ambitious and so overachieving. When I did the Santiago de Compostela pilgrimage, you know, when I walked across Spain 9 or 10 years ago, I was, 65 or whatever, and in doing that, it made me understand basically how overachieving I really am. So the overachievement characteristic that I have in my nature, I'm trying to work on that, because it doesn't always flow. Although I'm beginning to really learn now that artistic differences, let's just take that, there is nothing either right or either wrong. It's just different. And when you sign on to do something and you understand what a director wants, he's the one with the vision, or she's the one with the vision, not us actors, except insofar as where we can create something within our own understanding of the character. But I'm looking at the fact, I look back on my past now and I see I was so involved with what I was doing at the time that I think I missed the big subjects of what the culture was doing, what it meant to be alive at the time, what were the larger perspectives and flows and ebbs of reality than just me. And that's one of the reasons I wrote this book, because I've realized that now. That's what saging while aging means.
I'll tell you why I'm here today, having read this book and seen you on programs like Larry King recently, is I want you to help me. What is the key to life?
Oh, what? What I'm attempting to analyze is what lies beneath what we think of as reality.
But that surely leads to a better life and a more fulfilled life. That's what I mean, by looking at those things.
Well, that's got nothing to do with success.
I think it's all connected. If you spend your life looking at the vacuous, often you end up unfulfilled. By looking deeper.
What's the vacuous?
Well, for example, if you look at people like Lindsay Lohan or the Paris Hiltons, who seem to just go out and look beautiful all the time, I wonder where they'll be at your age.
Okay, but I'm not sure that's what's troubling them. I think they're having an adventure with the addiction to fame. That's a rather deep subject. Everybody wants to be friggin' famous. Why? I go through life wishing to be left more and more alone. I've never been interested in fame. I've been interested in creative expression, yes. But I have no problem, nor do I want to change the fact that nobody knows I'm in town, if that's the case. Those girls have, I think they're serving as teachers for the rest of us in relation to our opinion about fame, really. So I wouldn't call it vacuous.
Although it appears from the outside as a guy who isn't famous and doesn't want to be famous, that it is kind of vacuous, turning up and expecting a whole load of paparazzi to take your picture.
Well,
at the very least, it's vain,
Alex.
though, isn't it?
That's your problem.
Oh, really? It's mine, is
Your
it?
problem. Theirs, it's very clear what their problem is. So why do you have a problem with it?
I don't have a problem with it, but what I'm trying to get to is the essence of this book, which is making myself a better person by looking deeper, which I think is the point of the book, isn't it?
No, I don't know. No, I'm looking for the truth.
Okay. What is the most misunderstood problem with society today? What are we missing the most as a generation, as a people?
Yeah, very good question. As I chew on my cookie here. I think human beings in every culture have a problem with authority. I think they resent the fact that they have made themselves subservient to authority. At the same time, they don't really know what to do with the freedom. So that creates an inordinate devotion to organized religion, which means then they let God, in their opinion, make the decision. Hence fundamentalist Christianity, fundamentalist Islam, which I think we really have the right to be frightened of the conflict about. That bothers me a lot, more than anything else. And we've made this ourselves because we haven't taken responsibility for our own lives. We leave it up to some authority figure that tells us what to do. That is, I think, our big problem. I mean, I've been talking about this now for years. I did a whole symposium at the National Press Club in Washington years ago. I had to fill in for the Dalai Lama, and I remember I brought this up, and suddenly the press from all over the world got very wide-eyed. My God, maybe what she's talking about has some validity here. And let's look at where we are. I said, we're going to come to the point where we're fighting each other, maybe even with nuclear weapons, over God. So what I'm doing when I write my books is talking about the real spirituality and not so much about organized religion.
I've just spent 3 weeks in America, and I was in New York recording a Broadway show, and then I went to my family in Michigan. And the one thing that struck me more this time than ever before is how religion is crossing into politics.
Right.
And that is a major concern for me, and I think it's worse over there than it is even here.
No question, because you have more sophistication about that. Thank God for Thomas Jefferson and the Founding Fathers who said, separate the two mothers for goodness sakes. But we're not doing it, and it becomes a kind of clarion call or something for a candidate. I mean, it's ridiculous. We are actually analyzing the religious persuasion of, but you know, perhaps it is necessary because we've got to get it clear in our heads and in our value system how this addiction to authoritarianism, that's why I brought it up in the first place a few minutes ago, it leads to what we've got now.